Hello and welcome to Ward Talk, CTN's look at the political scene in Ann Arbor. I'm your host, Bonnie Gabowitz. We'll be discussing issues and solutions with City Council members from our 5 wards on the third Wednesday of each month. Joining us today is Mayor Christopher Taylor. Welcome, Mayor.
Pleasure to be here.
And it's been over a year since we last sat down to chat. And first of all, I want to talk a little bit about you, and then we'll talk about Ann Arbor. Before you were mayor, you were also on the council?
That's right. I was elected at City Council in 2008 to represent the 3rd Ward, and then was elected mayor in 2014.
So how many years altogether have you been involved in?
I'm rounding up to 10 years almost.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a while.
And how long have you been living in Ann Arbor?
I think about 30 years total. Was here in came here for college, stayed for graduate school and law school, so that was about 12, and then it's been about 18 years since we moved on back.
So you've really seen how things have changed and what the efforts are of the city to take care of its citizens. And
absolutely.
Great. Well, I'd like to start in the last program, there was an award that was mentioned in terms of a kudo for Ann Arbor, which was the 2018 National Geographic Traveler magazine, which voted Ann Arbor as the best U.S. small city. But and this is just 2018, we're at the beginning of the year, we also have several other recognitions I'd like to mention.
Have you been talking to my mom or something?
And this I got right off the a2.gov website, so all of our citizens can check it out. But we were voted the most artistic town, the best, one of the top 100 places, best place to live. It's the best college town and city in America, #1. That's from Wallet Hub. And from Wallet Hub also, #7 was the best mid-sized city for football, which that doesn't surprise me at all. And going back just in the past year, we've got best tasting drinking water in Michigan and #4 in the country. And an Urban Streets Project Award of Merit for the Stadium Boulevard project, the best golf course in Washtenaw County, and best cities for a green career. And I know we've been doing a lot of work trying to, be good to our environment. One of the best cities for summer internships, and the best cities for teachers, #70. Municipal Equality Index, and one of the top, #3 for the top 100 best places to live. That is quite a list.
It is. People love Ann Arbor. It's just a great place to be. There's no question about it.
And what would you say is the biggest change over the years you've seen in terms of what makes the city even better?
Well, back when I came here for college in 1985, and I guess, there are a couple, and your experience as a student is very different, of course, than your experience as an adult. But I think that Ann Arbor as a community outside of the university has grown in sophistication and activity and energy since back then. And I think that that's what drives people here. We have so much demand. People really want to come to Ann Arbor. They want to live here or work here or just hang out here, and it's a great place.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, we've been talking about a lot of issues as each council member comes and chats with me.
Sure.
And there are a couple of new things going on. I thought maybe we could give a little bit more information about. There are 2 rather new commissions, one on transportation, one on policing. So let's start talking about the transportation. I would say that, especially in the past 6 months, every show we've done, we've talked about the issue of transportation and also safety. What will help everybody get around, whether they walk, they bicycle, they ride, and also how can we keep down any possible accidents that can occur.
Yeah.
So, well, let's talk about transportation first.
Yeah, well, you know, that's been one of the things I've been focusing on most, you know, since becoming mayor in 2014, and that, you know, the issues and concerns surrounding pedestrian safety. It's something that, you know, we've taken on with forming this new transportation commission. We're working very closely with the schools. The schools have identified a large number of projects around schools that require municipal attention, and we've been taking care of that, installing street lights, making crosswalks safer, stripings, this sort of thing, making sure that we have enforcement where it's needed. You know,
and that's still going on, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's an ongoing process. That's never going to stop. You know, every road project that we have going forward is going to have some kind of bicycle. You know, it's going to be a complete street. We're going to make sure that bicycles are you know, that the road design and that the road implementation is suitable for bicycles. We're going to make sure that pedestrian safety is always you know, in top of mind when putting together street designs. You know, the streets are there for everyone, and some of what makes Ann Arbor get on lists like that is the ability for people to get around, whether it's by foot or by bike.
Mm-hmm. And at what stage are you in terms of, are you done with making roundabouts? Because I know there were a couple new roundabouts that were developed.
We're not done yet. You know, there are a couple of intersections throughout the city, a couple of areas throughout the city that would really benefit from additional roundabouts. It's a long-term project, putting in roundabouts. You need a lot of space. You got to figure out how you aggregate right-of-way in order to put that in, and it's an expensive proposition, but it's really important. You know, one of the aspects of the Ann Arbor success is the great demand we have for people that live here, people that want to work here. That's outstanding on so many reasons, for so many reasons, but it also means that we have congestion in the city, and roundabouts are safe and effective ways of mitigating congestion.
Is there any kind of evaluation being made in the future as to how these roundabouts have improved the flow of traffic and the safety?
Absolutely. I mean, roundabouts are well known to to facilitate transit. They reduce congestion. They reduce the severity of accidents. You will continue to have fender benders, scrapes, side swipes, those sorts of things in roundabouts, particularly as they are as the public becomes initially accustomed to them. But the severity of accidents is reduced.
And I think because you've improved your signage, for me, driving around the roundabouts, I noticed there were improved signs in which the lanes were very well specified as to if you're going in this direction, this is the lane you should be in, as well as big yield signs, so that you know when you're coming into the roundabout, you have to yield to what's already in the circle. Right. Back in Boston, I grew up with we didn't call them roundabouts.
Yeah, the rotaries.
Yeah, they were rotaries, and the rotaries were all over.
Right.
It was very, very common to have rotaries. So it's interesting that it's taken on a new life here in the Midwest as well.
Yeah.
And in terms of the bicycling, does the city have a program where people can check the safety of their helmets or the condition of their bikes? Do you know if there's anything that
I think we certainly have those sorts of programs for youth, particularly in connection with things like Safety Town. Mm-hmm. As a general matter, I think we rely upon the bike users to take care of themselves, make sure that their equipment is proper.
Mm-hmm. Great. And okay, so let's start talking about the Policing Commission.
Yeah.
I believe this is relatively new, and it's very exciting, but I think there's also a little bit of confusion as to exactly what this commission would do.
Sure.
So are you basically looking at still specifying what the commission will be doing?
Yeah, the commission has not yet been formed, and the exact duties of the commission, its makeup and so forth, have not yet been even put into a resolution. Mm-hmm. We conducted a long process to have an external a set of external experts come and look at Ann Arbor Police, see what we're doing right, see what we can improve upon. And one of the things that they recommended was a policing commission of some kind in order to provide a place for residents and civilians to understand what the police are doing, to communicate to police about concerns that they have, to serve as sort of an after-action review for city internal affairs operations, those sorts of things. And so we're at the point where we're going to stand up a task force which is going to articulate its view of the tasks and functions of this policing commission. We'll then receive that report sometime in the fall, I hope. And then in the fall thereafter, pass a resolution at City Council which will form the policing commission.
So this is really going to take a while to even get off the ground.
It will. It's a complex operation. We have state laws we need to deal with. We have union contracts we need to deal with. Police too all engage so much private, confidential, sensitive information. And the city's processes, we tend to operate very much in the open. We're subject to the Open Meetings Act. We make sure that our commissions comply with the Open Meeting Act, even though it's not a legal obligation. We do that because we believe in transparency at the city government.
Okay, so that's a topic we'll definitely be continuing to talk about.
Absolutely.
Right. We're going to take a break right now.
Okay.
So we'll go on to some other subjects when we get back.
Looking forward to it.
Great. We want to hear from you, so please email questions to ctn@a2gov.org or tweet us at #CTNAnnArbor. We're taking a break and we'll be coming back with more. Hi, I'm Bonnie Gabowitz. This is Ward Talk. I'm talking to Mayor Christopher Taylor, which is a very special segment. And we were just talking about some of the new initiatives.
Yeah.
So let's just continue talking about some things that have been going on for a while.
Sure.
One is the deer call, which is in its second or third year.
Third year, I think.
Third year, right. And I understand the difference this year was that the council had voted to spend additional money and have an increased number of deer culled, and included in the program a sterilization of a certain number of deer.
Right.
Now that's over, and the report is in. From what I understand, there weren't as many deer culled as was the plan, but I know the weather was not very helpful.
Right.
So in terms of you individually, I understand you were not supportive of the program. If you could let us know a little bit more about what made the difference for you for not pursuing this, even though, of course, you were outvoted.
Yeah, and I guess I'd like to say at the outset that I recognize that we have that this is a really hard question. That there are the deer in the city that that negatively impact people's lives, either in their homes directly or on the roads, or through the deer browse in the parks and our natural areas. So I'm not a deer denier in that respect. But for me, the notion of shooting and killing deer in Ann Arbor's parks and natural areas was it was, for me, it's inconsistent with I think who we are and ought to be as a community. There are so many people that have come and spoken to council and communicated to us over the years that practice, it really just it affects their sense of home, their sense of place in a very real and earnest and way that that spoke to me. And so I've been a pretty consistent no vote. Now I'm outvoted on that fairly with regularity. So the cull is moving forward, and has moved forward.
And so will decisions be made for the next winter in how to adjust what their aim will be in terms of how many will be culled?
Yeah, that's going to be decided as next winter approaches. So I would expect City Council in later in the summer to hear get a little bit more information as to how staff views the cull that occurred. Data that's been gathered over the course of the passage of time as to the status of exclosures, by way of example, in the parks and natural areas, and then council in the fall would determine what kind of deer program they're looking for.
And of course, there will be some kind of check to see what the population is, to see how the cull has affected the population,
That's right.
And that's really a key piece of information.
Very much so.
Right. Okay. So. In terms of housing, we were having a discussion before the show, and of course you've been here so many years, you've been here decades, and there are changes, but I think one of the dilemmas the city has is that you only have so much power to control which businesses and which condo and housing developments will come in terms of what this will cost the tenants or residents to live in. You can't go and say to a company, we want you to have this level of housing with this percentage of affordable housing. Do you have any say at all in who is attracted to build in Ann Arbor and what kind of housing they offer?
We certainly can't, when the city does not sell the land, we don't have any control over rents or prices or things like that. We can't require the developer to make their condominiums, their apartments affordable. When the city does own the land, we do have the ability to have that leverage. By way of example, the library lot, the deal that we've struck with the air rights purchaser, that includes 43 units of permanent and affordable housing. It would include $5 million paid to the Affordable Housing Fund, which would in turn be able to leverage between 200 and 500 units of permanent affordable housing throughout the city. We have so many people that want to be here, and there is a great deal of market demand. And for decades, we've put a lid on supply in the city, and that's meant that prices have gone up. Which, if you're a property owner, there's some aspect of it that's quite good, but there are also harms associated with that. Aging in place is difficult for people here. Taxes need to go up because the tax base has not expanded. People who want to come into the city have a harder time moving here. If you work in the city, it's harder to live near where you work, which means that there's traffic. If we had put a lid on development in the city, one interesting statistic that we hear from finance is that the development in Ann Arbor since the Great Recession, since about 2008, 2007.
I remember it well.
Yeah, that development alone gives the city of Ann Arbor each year $3.4 million in new taxes. And to our budget, to provide the services that Ann Arbor residents require and demand and deserve, that's a huge amount. That's about enough to fund, about 1/3 of our police officers, right there, just on the development that's occurred in those past couple of years. That new development, not even the changes within current structures. So, if we as a city want to continue to provide the services that residents demand in the face of rising costs, and we want them to be able to live close to where they work, and we want to, do what we can to, to counterbalance, increasing demand, then that's a solution that comes on the supply side.
And the one thing you do have control over are basically the zoning laws.
That's right.
I just want to point that out, that if a business comes in or a builder comes in, you have restrictions in terms of what can be built in what particular neighborhood.
Yes.
So you do have that control.
We do, and that's a powerful tool. It's an incomplete tool. There are some abilities that some states permit local jurisdictions to require affordability in their zoning. Michigan does not permit us to do that. I think certainly would if we could, but it does. You're right. Give us control over lot size, square footage, unit distributions. Usage generally, those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm. And right now, is there any city-owned property that could be available for some kind of housing development?
Well, the city does have land throughout. We have some land that is vacant, 415 West Washington, 721 North Main, other places throughout the city. That's land that folks have talked about for a while as being appropriate and perhaps attractive for some kind of housing usage. So there are options. It's not enough to counterbalance the need that's there, but it's a start.
So, well, in talking about those areas, are you waiting for someone to come along and offer to build something there, or are you looking for possibilities of what can be done with the land?
Yeah, both those two properties are on the proposed path of the tree line, an urban trail running, broadly speaking, from the Huron River to the beginning of the creek. And that is, that master plan, the tree line master plan, was just adopted just a couple of months ago. That has sort of served as a gating item before the acceptance of that plan, for the drafting of that plan. I think we decided that we didn't really want to take action by way of example on 415 West Washington, because we know that that's going to be a core anchor tree line property. And we want the parcel, if we can, to to also help support the maintenance of the trail. And so getting that all together had required us to sit a little bit on 721 and 415.
Right, and you mentioned tree line, so I'm just going to pop in
with,
with a mention that Ann Arbor is involved in replacing or planting new trees. And we're talking about a lot of trees.
We are. Yeah, this is. I'm super excited about this. Yeah. This is something I've been focusing on for a while since I've been mayor. We have an urban forestry management plan. Ann Arbor, we love our trees, but ever since the Emerald Ash Borer back in 2003, 2004, the urban forest has, and then the Great Recession, of course, the urban forest has not been cared for in the way that it needs. We've not been able to plant. We've not been able to prune. We've not had the money for that. But it turns out that that street trees in parks, that they have tremendous stormwater benefits. They suck up a lot of water. They help create infiltrative soil, and so we've decided to use stormwater money to support our urban forest. And so
that's a great idea.
I'm super excited about it. Each of our street trees throughout all the city and the cultivated areas of our parks are on now a regular pruning cycle that is just getting off the ground now. And we're planting, as you said, about 1,000 street trees a year, which is...
And I understand you're also offering to train citizens to help with keeping up with the trees, the pruning, and keeping them nice.
That's right.
There's a citizen
pruning program. Ann Arbor has that doesn't lack for people that want to get involved, doesn't lack for people who want to make our city better. And one of the areas in which the municipal organization activates that is through the citizen pruning program.
Okay, talk about civic engagement.
I know, it's outstanding.
And for the couple minutes we have left, and I have down here forestry, but is that basically what we've been talking about?
Yeah, that's our urban forest. We have the urban forest management plan for a little bit now, but now it's being able to be funded through our stormwater utility because of street tree stormwater benefits. And folks throughout neighborhoods will see trees being pruned in the way they're supposed to be. Where there's been loss due to storm damage or ash borer, they'll see trees planted. And
is anything being done about, in terms of street repair? I know we went through a lot of projects with repairing major projects such as Stadium Boulevard.
Sure.
Are there any projects coming up once the weather improves, of course?
I mean, the roads in Ann Arbor, I mean, certainly this time of year are, need work. And we're committed to doing that. Our roads are now at about 50% good and above when we rate them. We have a plan which will involve more preventative maintenance on roads that will, over the passage of time, move about 80% of our roads to good and above. So by 2024, we expect to hit that 80% or so range. And so
I understand citizens can contact the city if they see really bad potholes.
Absolutely.
There's a way they can contact the city to make sure the city's aware of the problem.
That's right. We have an A2 Fix-It app, which will geotag your location or identify a pothole. We'll certainly come and get it. You mentioned also new construction projects. One thing that I'm particularly excited about is the improvements on North Fifth by the Farmers Market, by Zingerman's, by Community High School. That's a beautiful area of our city that really needs road work. It really needs engineering work to make sure that our pedestrian intersections there are as safe as possible for people at the Farmers Market and for students at Community High School. It's going to be a big project this year. There'll be, of course, all the the attendant complications associated with construction, but by this time next year, it's going to be done, and I think it's going to be great.
So we have some great things to look forward to.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure and an honor talking to you, Mayor Taylor.
It's been a delight. Thanks very much.
Okay. And remember to join us for a new episode every third Wednesday of the month. We want to hear from you, so please email us at ctn@a2gov.org, attention, Word Talk. You can also follow CTN and ask questions on Twitter at twitter.com/CTN Ann Arbor. We'll make sure to include your questions. For Word Talk, I'm Bonnie Gabowitz. Until next month.